Hello everyone, this is Gary Wilson and welcome to the Investor Agent class. This is one of 5 different classes you can take right now. There's a total of 10, actually, or more being developed. And with this series, the Path to Profit series, of course, you can learn to invest in flips, you can learn to invest in rentals, you can learn to do wholesaling, you can learn to manage rentals. And this particular class is, if there's 2 people in this class. The audiences are investors and agents who want to work with investors, or who already do, or agents who already invest themselves. So that's the audience. Hence, that's why it says investor agent, make more money, not more work, because the basic principle is you're leveraging what you're already doing. In other words, if you're an agent, you already have a license, you're already out there using a license. What we're doing is showing you how and why you should leverage your license with multiple sources of customers, not just one. Where most agents fail is they only serve owner-occupants. In other words, the traditional agent serving traditional client looking to buy and sell their own home. And the risk of that is, if you've been around long enough, you witnessed it during the last recession. When the recession hit, half the agents got out of the business. The reason is they only service owner-occupants. They did not service investors. Those who service investors not only survive, they thrive, because investors keep buying and selling regardless of whatever the economy is doing. They don't care. Now, statistically, it looked like the investors were really going full steam ahead during the recession, but as far as dollars and cents goes, it was the same volume. It just looked bigger relative to the owner-occupant volume because the owner-occupant volume dropped so dramatically. So in any case, and if you're an investor, by all means you should be getting your license, because you're already out there engaged in investing activities. And while you're out there, you obviously can't buy everything. So those that you can't buy, you should refer to your fellow investors and earn a commission from it. That's really what we're going to be talking about here, these next 5 classes. That's what I did, and it ended up being so big and so profitable, it ended up surpassing my wealth and income I built from investing in properties themselves, far surpassing it, because I went on to expand and build a brokerage company and a property management company and a title company, all from that, just working with investors. Now, I'm not saying everybody here has to go and build brokerage companies and all that kind of thing. That's not necessary. You can make plenty of money just being an individual agent servicing investors. I did for years, and I did for a number of years, 100+ transactions each of those years. I did it part-time. I didn't have any assistance or admin help. I was still investing myself, and I was a dad. I mean, I had children. I was engaged in after-school activities, and it didn't consume me, and I made a lot of money doing it, 6 figures right out of the gate. So let's dig in here. Let's page forward. Okay, that's some legal stuff. And you guys, by the way, this manual, this quick start, this is called a quick start system that we're showing here on the screen. You are all going to get this, and it'll likely will be in tomorrow's email. So look for this in tomorrow's email. But essentially, if you're an investor who is a real estate agent or considering becoming an agent, this is for you. If you're an investor, same thing. Essentially, you're learning how to leverage your time and make more money, not more work. Let's see here. I follow what's called the wizard formula. A lot of people know me as the cash flow wizard, because I was always able to generate substantial, sustainable income on a regular basis. The wizard formula is W. W means you are willing, W, willing to get outside your comfort zone. This requires you to think outside the box, to be open-minded and accept and compile and digest and use new information and tools, which you're going to get here. I, investigate. You need to investigate your dream. It doesn't matter whether you're investing yourself or not. You don't have to be an investor to do this. If you're an agent, I suggest you invest. If you talk to any highly successful real estate professional, those who are at the top of the game usually end up investing. And a lot of investors, by the way, have gone on to do just the very same thing we just described. Z, zeroing on your plans. You got to focus and target. The more you do, you gain confidence and leverage by leveraging your current activities. The A is take action. Nothing happens until you take action. You don't have to go out and get 100 transactions right out of the gate. You only want to go out, and you only have to go out and get one transaction. That's where it all starts. Just one. You don't need 10 transactions tomorrow. You just need one. You'll get another one the next week, another one the week after that. By the way, I mentioned earlier I was able to do 100 plus per year myself. That's 2 a week. How would you like to do 2 transactions a week? R is ramp it up. So once you cash in on your first transaction, you need to take massive action, multiply your results. And we're going to get into that. I'm going to show you a little bit here what I mean by that. And D is don't do it alone. You know, do it, but don't do it alone. This is where a lot of people fall short, and this is where I used to fall short. I spent years trying to do everything myself and on my own without any coaching, any guidance, any leadership, any good teacher, mentor. And when I started, I now have more than one coach. Matter of fact, I'll show off a little bit. You know, I started off with coaches that were offering, it was, you know, for like $1,000 a month or something, you could get coaching, and I started with that. And I offer that too. But now I literally just wrote a check last month for $100,000 for a new coaching program. And it's already, I'll talk more about that by the end of October. I'll explain to you what that is and how it's going to apply to you. So in any case, don't do it alone. Many have succeeded by getting proper education, information, and guidance rather than attempting to do it on their own. So that's the wizard formula. I suggest you live by the same formula. That's what I do. There's a table of contents. Let's see. Now, a lot of people ask me this. Should they be an investor first before they get their license? Should they be an agent before they start to invest? Is it both? Well, the reality is, the answer is it depends on you. Everybody's different. If you're young and just starting out, well, that's going to dictate one answer. If you're experienced and starting over, that's another answer. If you have capital, excess capital, you're going to have a different answer. And if you have residual income, that obviously will dictate a different answer. So before we get into that, I want to just briefly go over this. So this guide is for investors who are considering becoming agents and agents who are considering working with investors. And, of course, agents who realize they should be investing themselves, because agents who are on this program, if you're not already investing, by the end of the 5 weeks, chances are you're going to be convinced yourself that you need to be investing. So now I'm probably going to jump over here. Matter of fact, let me go over this real quick. So Module 1, we talk about the 2 roles and some basic analysis here. We're going to go over some tools that I use, investors use, and now you're going to be able to use to determine the towns you want to invest in and the neighborhoods. We're going to do that. Module 2 is we're really digging heavily in the rules of engagement for investors. So you're going to be able to think like investors think. And I'm going to show you a process that really is the process. It's the $1 million process. It's the exact process I went through. I developed. It's proprietary, that nobody else has. Nobody else teaches this because nobody else has it. Nobody else developed it. I did. But that's the difference. This is basically about relationship management. And when you know how to manage the investor-agent relationship, you'll know what I know, and which is really how to make that big income, 6 figures and eventually 7 figures. That's right. If you follow this path and you do go on to build brokerage and property management, you should have no reason to not make $1 million+ a year. Module 3 is the rules of engagement for agents. You need to know how you operate relative to the investors. Module 4 is where we really get into some good, meaty, juicy stuff. That's the marketing and advertising. This is how you actually build your own database of investors, if you're an agent, that is, or if you're an investor becoming an agent. Module 5, we get into the big stuff. This is really where we stretch your imagination and show you exactly how to apply what I'm going to show you next here, which is the multiple streams of income concept. So let me flip over there. So if you could, I would highly encourage you guys to take notes. But again, remember, you're going to get the quick start guide. Everything we're looking at here, you're going to get in your email tomorrow. But for now, if you want to go ahead and take some notes on a scratch pad, please feel free. Here's the big difference. Here's what makes the difference between traditional agents and investor agents. If you put a traditional agent in here, the only thing they really have available to them is working with owner-occupants and possibly a referral now and then. Yes, you could build a team, but it's not going to be much of a team. Trust me, I've done them. I've seen them. But the reality is, you know, most traditional clients are not going to give you referrals. When they sign that HUD-1 statement, a settlement sheet at closing, their mindset just completely shifted to now owner, not buyer, but owner, and or seller, or whatever the case is. They want the keys, they want to unload the truck, and they want to jump in the pool, and you are now a distant memory. Now, if you switch this over, let's say you're an investor agent, you work with investors. You're sitting at the settlement table. As soon as investor signs the HUD-1 settlement sheet, okay, the very next thing he or she's going to say is, hey, whatever you are, Terrence, I'll pick on you since I picked on you earlier. Say, Terrence, set me up for my next investment property. Okay, now some light bulbs should be going off here. That's right. These investors are going to be your bread and butter on a consistent basis. And guess what? You only had to earn that relationship, develop it one time. If you develop it, you know, owner-occupants, you got to build a new relationship with every new client. That is extremely time-consuming and costly. That's why I love working with investors. I developed a relationship one time and I serviced them over and over and over again. Now you have 8 possible streams of income. I only advocate developing 3 out of the gate, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quickly here. And again, now we're going to jump back over. I just wanted to show you this initially. Let's say you work with rental investors, people who buy rental properties. They buy a lot of them, just like me. I bought, my first year out investing, guys, I bought 10 multi-unit buildings. Okay, that's a lot of commissions. But here's what happens. These guys ultimately are going to need property management. That's right. And you are allowed to manage properties for people. You have a license. You can't create a company without being a broker, in most states that is. But as an agent, you should be able to manage properties under the umbrella of your broker. Now, I know certain companies do this very easily and readily, and certain companies don't. And I'm not picking on anybody here, but if you're working for Coldwell Banker, Prudential, or Berkshire Hathaway, and those guys, they're not going to let you do it. You got to switch. You got to go to a company like Keller Williams, who actually coaches you and teaches you how to build your own business, and they encourage you to do this. I know multiple agents who run property management companies under the Keller Williams umbrella, and they do it on their own. So automatically now, when you work with rental investors, a second stream of income is just opened up for you. Now, I'll give you a quick example. Let's say this guy owns 10 rental units. They each bring in $1,000 a month, and you charge 10% management fee. You just made $1,000 a month just for managing his properties and maybe taking 5 to 10 hours of work under your belt. I would take 5 to 10 hours of work for $1,000 more, because guess what? It gets better. You also get to charge a leasing fee when you have to fill a vacancy. You get another month's rent. An average of 1 a month is not unreasonable. That's $2,000 a month you get just because you help this guy buy and sell his rental properties. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. That's how powerful this is. Now you look at a flipper. You help the guy doing flips buy the property initially. You get a commission there. Maybe it's low because it was only a $50,000 property. You list it for him when he sells it for $200,000. You get a commission there, and all flippers sell their properties. Very, very few do not sell because that's their business. They're in the business to turn those properties over and recycle their capital. So you get a second commission. Let's just say it's $200,000. You get one side. That's 3%. That's $6,000. Okay. But it gets better. Let's say you found the buyer. You get another $6,000. Let's say your minimum commission is $3,000, because a lot of firms say, hey, if you buy a $50,000 property, we got to charge a minimum commission. And I've done the same thing. I still do it. That's $15,000. One client, one property. But he's not done. This guy's going to do more of those. He's probably going to do 4 or 6 a year. I know investors who do 12 a year. I know investors actually do 50, 60, 70 flips a year. How would you like to service those guys? So you see the power of being an investor agent and the concept of multiple streams of income. So I want you to, if you guys tomorrow when you get this, print this off and keep it, make notes, because you're going to build to this over time. All right, you're going to, by the time the 5th week is up, you're going to understand fully not only what this means, but how it works and why, and you will be off and running. So now let's jump back over. I feel like I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I wanted to explain that a little bit so you had a broader view of what we're going to be talking about. Okay, so module 1, let's get into the rules of engagement. Now, typically the rules of engagement for investors and the rules of engagement for agents do overlap. And where they overlap is what we're going to talk about here. So, we talked about what comes first. Should you be an investor first or an agent or vice versa? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? The reality is, it all depends on your particular circumstances. When you're a real investor, you're not just doing it as a hobby. A real investor is doing it full time. They're making substantial income from it, and they're able to retire. And that's exactly what I did. I retired when I was 40 years old because I invested. I invested heavily in rental properties. Now, if you're if you're an investor and you actually make an income, regular recurring income, stream building, wealth, investing in real estate, that's what you want to do when you're an investor. So if you're investing, you're making good money. If you're an agent, you're making good money. If you're an investor agent, you're making great money. Okay. So, but we need to talk about your particular circumstances. If you already have a license and you're already investing, you can listen. You don't need to take too many notes. But if you're an investor and you don't have a license, the bottom line is go ahead and get your license. There's no reason not to, and you'll understand more fully. I could spend lots of time trying to convince you, but it doesn't matter because the curriculum is going to convince you. All right. Now the question is if you don't have your license and you're not investing, what do? Well, I suggest get your license first, start generating some income right away, and learn the investing business so you can save up your commissions to buy properties, and you'll be in the investing game. If you're a middle-aged person who's changed careers or been laid off, whatever, you have some assets sitting around, get your license again there. If you have cash, capital, and income, you should be investing absolutely right away. So that gets into that a little bit discussion there. I give the different examples. If you're an experienced and starting over, you have some capital, I suggest get your license. We talked about that. If you have residual income and you're in good shape, God bless you. By all means, maybe you should start flipping houses. A lot of people teach flipping first and then go buy rentals. I don't advocate that. I suggest pick up rentals first to build a solid foundation, and then you go flip. That's if you're an investor. And again, if you're an agent, I would heed the advice. I'm not going to discredit any of the other teachers and gurus out there, but I'm telling you, you will thank me if you buy rental properties first and do flips later. Because let's just imagine, for example, you do a flip and the flip doesn't go well. Even if you break even, it's about a third of them don't work the way you want them to. Let's say that ends up being your first flip. Well, you tie up all your energy, time, and capital for potentially 6 months by the time you buy the property, close on it, remodel it, put it back on the market, advertise it, get it under contract and sell it. Could be 6 months. That's a lot of time for your money to be tied up. Let's say this flat out you lose money on it, which could happen if you don't do it the right way. It could knock you out of the game completely. But if you buy rental properties, you build up a solid base of cash flow. Even if a flip doesn't go well, you're still in the game. You're still making income. So you see the logic there? Okay. Now, let's see here. We talked about if you have capital, residual income, obviously you have more options available to you. Never fear, you have to start somewhere. Now, I was 22 years old, just getting out of college when I bought my first property, and I never looked back. By the way, here's you guys can all go to the website, myinvestorservices.com. You can email me, Gary at winrealtyadvisors.com. That's the parent company I created. You can even call our number and ask for me there. We can always discuss this in more detail one-on-one. I do offer one-on-one coaching to people. You always get one for free with me. You always get a half hour free. So if you haven't done that, I suggest give me a call or call the 1-800 number and set it up with Beverly, and we'll get you a free coaching call. So let's get going here, guys. All right. Now, rules of engagements for investors. But now, before I jump into this, any questions so far on what we talked about? Because if you do, use your chat box and let me know, and I'll answer the question before I get into too much detail. Because we're going to get into some nitty-gritty detail here in a second. Actually, we'll tell you this. I can see a question right there, and here's how I'm going to answer this. Okay, so if you're an agent and you've heard other agents talk about investors and your broker says, we just go out and get the $1 million listings, forget the investors. they are missing the boat, because there are some myths regarding investors. And one of the myths is investors are cheap and they only buy little properties that are 25,000 bucks and all that. That's not the case. Yeah, they're out there, but who do you think's buying those 20-unit buildings and the 30-unit buildings and the 10-unit buildings? And who do you think's flipping in those nice neighborhoods? Those are investors. We teach you how to find those investors. And by the way, if you do find yourself working from time to time with somebody buying a $50,000 property, never fear. They will move up, I promise you. And by the way, you always want to implement a minimum commission policy. You know, some people say it should be 2,000, some say 3, some say 4. To me, it should be relative to your experience, what you bring to the table, and relative to your market. I'd like to think that minimum commission will be equivalent to 3% of a $100,000 property, or 3% of a median price property for your area. That should be your minimum commission, or the bottom of that range, that is. So in any case, and again, investors grow. I have investors who have actually retired from the corporate world because they bought so many properties. And so they made a lot of money, which means I made a lot of money. Here's another myth. Investors buy junk. Well, let's look at the flippers. Flippers don't make money flipping houses in poor neighborhoods. They make money flipping houses in middle class or upper middle class or affluent neighborhoods. I love working with flippers. Those are good commissions and those are easy sales. They're always top-notch properties when they're done remodeling them. Even those buying rentals, right now, turnkey rentals are the thing to do, and they're always looking for the best property at the best price that need the least amount of work. Sounds like good deals to me. A third one is investors are sometimes are crooked and they break the rules, and you know, there's bad apples in every industry, but that's just simply, that's the exception. Just like any other endeavor, most investors are not crooked, they're creative. If you talk to good savvy brokers who know what they're doing working with investors, they will tell you, you know, here the answer is, I will just give you one of the tips and tricks I use. If investors come to you and want to use their own forms, what I say is, it's better to use the state-approved forms, the forms approved from the State Board of Realtors, and then you add your own addendums in there. That's right. You can take all the criteria from your investor, teacher, guru forms and apply those in an addendum form to the standard agreement. That's how you get past all that. So as you can see, within 5 minutes, I just dispelled all those myths, and I'll send you some reports, by the way, the next week or so, that'll explain that kind of stuff further. But back to this. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about macro management, macro area management. You need to know what areas, broad areas, to invest in. That's like the city or town level. Then we'll break down into the properties, and then the neighborhoods, and then the properties. So if you now, a lot of things, there's a lot of variables here. If you're in a heavy populated area like LA County, New York City, you're going to have a different mindset than you will if you're in, say, like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, you know, parts of Georgia like Atlanta, parts of Florida, parts of Illinois, around Chicago. You know, Houston and Chicago are big. As a matter of fact, they're 3 and 4 in size, only behind LA and New York. New York's number 1. But when you get into the medium-sized areas like Hampton Roads, Virginia, there's the area they call 7 cities. Jacksonville, Florida. Awesome investment areas. Houston, Texas, even though it's big, that's a huge, great area to invest in. St. Louis, Missouri, awesome place to invest. Memphis, Tennessee, my goodness, I mean, areas around, all around Atlanta, even away from Atlanta, Macon, Georgia, areas in the Carolinas. But in any case, relative to those areas, we're going to apply some tools here. All right, and we don't get into the neighborhoods until we've identified the towns.